Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Racing Roundtable. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. We'll have plenty to touch on today. Looking at Daniel Suarez's win in the Coke 600. Also look ahead to this weekend's race at Nashville. And Jerry Jordan is set to join us in just a moment. But where we begin today is the unfortunate news of the passing of NASCAR legend Kyle Busch, who left us on Thursday of last week in just heartbreaking, tragic news that shocked the NASCAR world, the motorsports community, the sports world, for that matter, that really just came out of nowhere. And we have not a chance in this show to talk about it. We really want to go in depth. That's going to be the majority of today's show. Jerry covered Kyle and got to know him for a number of years, so we appreciate him joining us with his insights, and we'll get to Jerry here in just a bit. But Dominic, I'll start with you. Just man, just very tough to hear this news of Kyle's passing and all those that were affected, from Samantha to Brexton to Lennox, Kurt, his parents. This one hit a lot of people, and we're just very sad that this all happened. Like it still doesn't even feel real at this point.
No, it doesn't. And our continued thoughts, our prayers go out to Kyle, his entire family, everyone that's affected by it, and even what we're coming up on a week of it, and it still feels so fresh, like it's not real. And Denny Hamlin, I think, really summed it up well, Tyler, that this is our Kobe Bryant moment as a motorsports industry. And you look at the Mount Rushmore of NASCAR drivers and NASCAR greats, Kyle Busch would be on that Mount Rushmore, much like Kobe Bryant would be for the NBA. And there's just so many things to talk about with Kyle, and so many memories, and just so many things you start thinking back over. And best way I could describe it, especially you would totally understand this. Jerry would understand this too, working in media. A lot of times, maybe I can't speak for everyone else, but you don't always necessarily get to know people on a personal level, but they are like what would be the equivalent of a colleague. You travel with them, you see them places, you interact with them. And that's the relationship I had with Kyle Busch. And Kyle Busch always made me sure, Tyler, that I had to bring my A game, because if you're going to ask Kyle Busch a question, you wanted to make sure that you were asking something well thought out. There's not many drivers that intimidated me to ask questions, but when I'd ask Kyle something, I wanted to make sure I was asking something that was of relevance, something that was going to be great of substance, and something that was not going to make a highlight reel. Only a handful of drivers have ever made me feel like that, and Kyle Busch was one of them. But Kyle made me a better motorsports reporter, hands down. And it's been very touching to hear the personalized stories that you hear surrounding Kyle, and the impact that he has had on motorsports and will continue to have on the industry.
From my experience with Kyle, um, as I wrote in my column a few days ago after this news happened, I know that people think of Kyle and the things that have occurred over the years, from him wrecking his brother in the All-Star race and them not talking till Thanksgiving when Grandma forced him to make peace, or smashing the guitar in Victory Lane after winning at Nashville in 2009. And even more recently, he had a run in there with John Hunter Nemechek where he may have intentionally wrecked him just a few weeks ago in his second to last race. There was a lot of run-ins over the years. But that was a character that Kyle played and that he embraced on the track. That was not the person that Kyle was. When you look at the individual who Kyle was off the racetrack, this was somebody that opened doors for all sorts of drivers over the years that would not have had that opportunity otherwise, with what he did with Kyle Busch Motorsports, from names like Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, William Byron, Daniel Suarez. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? I mean, those are opportunities. He was looking out for those guys to give them a chance. And then, what you see with what he and Samantha did with the IVF treatments in the Bundle of Joy Fund. They helped over 100 families be able to have the greatest gift of all, have children. And they went through their fertility struggles, and they could have been private and quiet about it. Instead, they made it very public and used that as a way to help people and reach people. And so that's, Matt, what I see with Kyle is there's the persona, the way he carried himself on the track, and and was quite the character and never shied from being himself. But off the track, this was a good person that made the world a better place.
Oh, absolutely. No question there. And just if I was going to personify NASCAR, and this is my opinion, is that there's a small group of guys that I would um, say would be able to personify NASCAR as a whole, and Kyle Busch is within that group. So I kind of want to mirror what you guys are saying too. Just unbelievable and hard to even fathom kind of what we're talking about today, you know. So, but obviously, massive impact that they've had on the track. Kyle's had on the track, that the Bush family's had off the track, obviously. And you know, with obviously there's a lot of great support behind Brexton um, and Lennox, and I think they'll be making impacts for many years to come.
So Jerry Jordan is here with us from KickinTheTires.net. Jerry was with us a couple weeks ago. He covered Kyle's entire career and got to know Kyle. And Jerry, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to ask you a question that you've been asked, that you have asked people the last few days. Where were you when you found out this news, and what was your immediate reaction, Jerry?
I was sitting right here in this desk where I'm in my office at the Gold Company where I do marketing. And by the way, that hood in the background, that hood's been there since I moved into this office. I've had it for a long time. It was in my other office before that, and at my house before that. So it's not something that I just put up. It's I've known Kyle my entire career in NASCAR. He started in 2001. Kicking the Tires started in 2001. This is the 25th anniversary of us. This is his 25th year in NASCAR. So I like what Dom said about being being on your A game when you ask Kyle questions, because I when Kyle would get out of the car and he hated running second. Um, he'd rather run ninth. Yeah, somebody said that the other day. He'd rather run ninth than second, and I'm thinking why. But no one wanted to ask him a question. Like they would look at me and you ask you because somebody's probably going to get their head chopped off, you know. And I remember asking him a question. I said, "Hey, did you have anything else? I mean, you were right there. Did you have anything?" He says, "No, I got my ass kicked." And he's like, "I gave it everything I could." I thought he was going to be livid with second, but he was okay with it because he brought his A game that day. He just got beat, and that's going to happen on the track. My reaction, um, stunned. Yeah, I'm still stunned. I mean, look, Michael McDowell said it best: "You don't get out of here alive. You don't leave this planet alive." Everyone, everybody has a time. I never in a million years would have bet you money that last Thursday would have been Kyle Busch's time. And it hurts. He's 41 years old. He's got, a young daughter that they fought to have. They've got a young son that they fought to have. He's got a wife, that he's leaving behind. He's got a mom, Gay, and his dad, Tom. And it's no secret in this sport. Kurt Busch, a very close friend of mine. So, I'm worried about Kurt. I'm worried about his, their parents. I'm worried about Sam and Lennox and Brexton. And if there's ever anything, I already told Kurt, I've sent him a message. I said, "Look, you've got all the resources in the world, but if you need something, you call me." Because, Steve O'Donnell said that NASCAR is a family. And it doesn't just, even though I'm media, and even though you guys are media, that doesn't mean that we can't help someone. Kyle Busch helped a lot of people that even you guys won't know about. Um, I don't know about all of them. I know about some. I know that he was a donor behind the scenes to some GoFundMe accounts that I found out about. One of them I ran. That's how I found out. Um, so he wanted to do good, and he didn't always have. He didn't take credit. He did good because Kyle was a good person. Um, and I want people to remember. I want them to remember the fire on the track, the firiness with the media and the other drivers, but I also want him to remember that moment where he pulled up next to a fan, you know, leaving the track, and that video's gone viral multiple times now, uh, and how how they help people have families, they help people have children, bring life into this world. That's the Kyle Busch. There's different facets of him, but it's all one person, and that's what I want people to remember. Uh, that's the person I knew. That's the person I covered. That's the person I'd say was a friend. He was always good to me. We sat down. Our most recent in-depth conversation was at Nashville a couple of years ago, I think. We were talking about Brexton and his trucks, and I asked him a bunch of different stuff. But I go back several years ago, and I asked Kyle a question. This has been many years ago. I actually don't even. He was still at JGR, at Joe Gibbs Racing, and I asked him. I said, "Dude, why don't you calm down on that?" He's like, I have a job to do. I have a job to do on that track to win races, and I have a job to do to represent my sponsor and to get them TV time. And I am that person. That's who I am when I put that fire suit on. I'm a racer, and he damn sure was.
Yeah, he certainly was indeed, and truly just one of a kind. Like there will never be another Kyle Busch. There was never a Kyle Busch before him. He was so unique, and the the legacy of Kyle Busch, Jerry. When we talk about from the on track accomplishments to what he did off the track. I would go as far as say, Jerry, that you look at that impact of just from winning the races, but then being there for people. I know the career ended way earlier than it should have, but this is a lasting legacy. This is something that he left where he made the racing world and the world at large a better place.
Everyone who knows Kyle Busch is a better person for it.
Hmm.
Okay, even if he wrecked you, if he put you into the fence at Texas Motor Speedway, okay, um, you're still better because you knew him, and you're still better because you were in the same orbit as he was. Because Kyle Busch was a good person. He's a good person that we shouldn't have lost at 41 years old. You know, I mean, the human body is an amazing, living thing. But when you get sick and, his pneumonia turns septic, and that's when your human body turns on yourself. And as much effort as your body will fight a disease if it turns on itself, as it did with sepsis, in this case, it can take you quicker than anybody realizes. So, that's one thing I think we all need to learn. I didn't go to the doctor for 30 years, just in case y'all didn't know, but I'm not a doctor fan. But even before this, I started going to the doctor because my wife is, I'm 54. My wife's been on my butt about, getting checkups and all that stuff to make sure that, the things happen. Um, but I encourage everyone to get checked out, make sure you're okay. You know, you have a cold, you have a cough, you have something, you know what? You got insurance. Even if you don't, go get checked out. Make sure you are okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, certainly. Dominic, go ahead.
I'm just thinking back on just interactions over the years with Kyle and the brashness, Jerry, and you might remember a couple of these moments, but Las Vegas 2021. We all know kind of some inside baseball here. If you're covering NASCAR, they'll put this in some of the stat sheets ahead of the week, or reporters will kind of cover like if someone hits a century mark, 500th, 600th start. Those are some storylines to follow. And I believe it was Kyle Busch's 600th NASCAR Cup Series start, 2021 Las Vegas fall race, and man, he led laps if I remember correctly. He ran up front most of the night and ended up finishing second or third to Denny Hamlin. And they bring him over to the bike racks because they had us kind of behind bike racks at the time for media availabilities. And some reporters got some questions in, and I got a question. I said, "Yeah, I know you didn't win, but your second or third, whatever it was, in your 600 start, does that carry anything with the milestone deal?" And he's like, "Well," and I'm paraphrasing, "it doesn't matter. I didn't win." I was like, Wow. What a great answer. I think a lot of reporters might be discouraged by an answer like that, Tyler, so brief and so direct, but I thought that showed the competitiveness, the burning desire that Kyle Busch had behind the wheel. And another one, Jerry, I think you were here for this one in Fontana 2019. Kyle Busch is on the heels of his 200th NASCAR National Series win, and he's running at that time the NASCAR Xfinity race and the Cup Series race. And he has a press conference early that morning on that Friday, and they bring him. I get the second question. I think somebody from MRN or PRN got it before me. And I asked Kyle, I said, of your 199 wins, how many of them do you remember? And he kind of smirks. And he's like, yeah, maybe about 85% I could tell you who won. But I remember him saying, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, but he had mentioned about how he remembered the ones that he'd lost. And again, those are the moments I think of Kyle Busch, the competitor, the driver, the rowdy driver on the racetrack that didn't want to lose. If there was somebody that hated losing most, I think Jerry said it best. It's Kyle Busch. And those are two stories that came to mind. Another time at the Daytona 500 media day, getting to ask him how many cars he thought could realistically win the Daytona 500. And I remember he gave a really thorough answer. I don't remember the exact number he gave, but hey, it was so good that SiriusXM, to my understanding, picked that audio soundbite up for some of their stuff they were doing. So those are some of the interactions I think of over the years, Tyler. I never had the chance to do a one-on-one with them, but it was cool to get to ask him questions. And again, every time I wanted to make sure they were a well thought out question because Kyle Busch would get you and he would know if you were not on your A game.
Don, Jerry said it best, I think, when he said he's a true racer. I think you were spot on there, Jerry, because that's when I think of Kyle Busch, man, I just think he is a racer, right? And when I said earlier that, there's a select group that I would say personify NASCAR, Kyle Busch is in that group because he is just a true racer if I think back to all of the notable moments throughout my time watching NASCAR, um, I would go out on a limb and say Kyle Busch is in the majority of those moments. I mean, uh, I think about, being a Jimmy Johnson fan, yeah, that I think about his blow-ups on the radio, tell him to quit flipping him off and drive his car back in 2011 at Martinsville. And then um, the incredible things that he did, like his run for the 2015 championship when he came back from his broken leg and ended up winning a bunch and winning the championship, and at the time, I remember thinking, well, it's the championship format, whatever, but it's still pretty incredible. And then now looking back, and honestly, I'm still blown away by it. So no matter what way you chop it up, and a lot of his grassroots stuff, a lot of people don't talk about his grassroots stuff a lot nowadays. But I mean, he would always be running the Snowball Derby, the Five Flags race down there, and obviously that was a big part of Eric Jones' career and his start of getting going. So you mentioned a lot of these young drivers. Kyle's legacy, I mean, goes so far beyond the racetrack and beyond his accomplishments as a driver, which says so much because he has won so much. So it's just a really cool thing looking back on Kyle's career. And like I said, there's so many moments. I mean, I can think of like 10 right off the top of my head.
Jerry, what are the moments that stand out to you over the years?
The good ones or the bad ones? Because look,
Both.
so I remember at Texas, Kyle Busch telling the officials they were number one twice. I think he got brought back into the pits for that one. But yeah, that was that I laughed. I was watching it live play out, and I was laughing.
What was that the same weekend that he took out Ron Hornaday in the truck race? I can't remember if it was the year prior or if that was the same weekend. For some reason,
It
maybe
no,
he wasn't
because
in
when
the
he took
cup
out
race that
when he
weekend,
took out
actually.
Hornaday, he was sat out.
Yeah, he wasn't in the cup race that
Yeah,
weekend. Yeah, sorry, he's got a lot of moments at Texas.
yeah. It's for that. It's for the fun track. And look, I know that he just got loose and his car was broke 3 weeks ago at Texas. I mean, look, sometimes you just can't drive a car, and John Hunter Nemechek just happens to get in your way. And that I feel confident that's exactly what happened. Like he played it out, and that's why that's why NASCAR didn't fine him or anything. So I mean, come on. But you look at who Kyle Busch had his hand on in the sport throughout the years. Okay, we heard for years Brad Keselowski with BKR had drivers in the garage that he had pushed into the ranks of racing. Kyle Busch he had Bubba Wallace, he had William Byron, Christopher Bell, Eric Jones. I mean, there's a list, a long list. Those are just some that I've named of people that have worked for him or been mentored by him along the way. Think of all the people that when he was at Toyota, he brought up that whole Toyota racing development program. All those people that his lives, he is impactful in their lives and their racing careers. So it's not just that Kyle Busch was a racer; he was also a mentor, and he was someone you could look up to, even for bad stuff. Look, sometimes, you know, sometimes you do stupid stuff, but at the heat of the moment, that was a decision you made. I'm not mad at him for flipping off the officials at Texas. I don't think anybody is.
So many weekends, I thought, you almost couldn't question that he was the one who wanted to win the most at the racetrack. Like out of all the drivers there was almost no question that he's the guy. If you had to pick one and said that one guy wants to win more than anyone else there, it'd have to be Kyle Busch. And I think that showed through a lot of weeks.
Absolutely. You know, his brother had the same desire. I mean, Kurt's the exact same way. I mean, they're like, they're different ages and different personalities, but they both have that desire to win. So every time, and Kurt saying when he was here already, and he said, "You think I'm good? You need to see Shrub. See my little brother."
I actually just learned about the Shrub nickname today. I did not know about that before today. That was
Great
interesting. I'm
nickname.
like, Shrub. I'm like, okay, I guess it makes sense. The smaller bush, right?
Yep.
So that's something else.
Yeah, and then he went on, pardon my take, with Barstool a couple of years ago, and they said we've decided we need to upgrade your nickname from Shrub to Landing Strip.
You remember that clip surfaced this week? All these cool
Yeah,
like Insta reels are popping back up. A lot of the Facebook. I'm old. I use Facebook, so it's been cool seeing a lot of this stuff pop back up again.
yeah. I'm old too. Believe it or not, I'm the oldest one on this call. That's for sure. But yeah, it's everybody that has ever interacted with him, and that has it on film. It has definitely somehow made its rounds this week on social media, the good and the bad. And I don't want Kyle to be remembered for the bad, but if it's going to be out there, just remember that shows his passion. That's how he was. That he wasn't one person here and one person there. He was always all heart, all racer. And then when the fire suit was off, he was a person that would do anything in the world, I think, from what I've seen, to help someone.
Jerry,
Yeah.
you look at the trickle down effect of this too, because we've talked so much about the loss of life, and when you look at the motorsport side of it too, this is the first driver since Dale Earnhardt, the first full time active competitor that passed away, and the last two times it has been Richard Childress that has had to be the bearer of this, and just the parallel seeing that this week to Rockingham 2001. I wasn't old enough to remember Dale Earnhardt. I wasn't watching NASCAR at that time, but to know the impact that he had on the sport and to know the impact that Kyle Busch will continue to have on the sport is something that will continue for decades, well
Apparently
beyond his
this is
driving days.
apparently this is the first time since 1979 that an Earnhardt or a Bush wasn't in a race.
It's
That's a
wild.
stat that you could pull up. Yeah, I would have thought you would have come up with that, but I saw it. I saw it earlier. I heard it when I was at the track this past weekend.
And when you look like how does Richard Childress RCR, how do you move forward from something like this and the hundreds of employees that are depending on you? And again, that trickle down effect of all of this, it just sends so many ripple effects. And yeah, my head goes there too. What does this all look like in the days, the weeks, and the months ahead?
I'll say this: what, 2 weeks ago I was on the show.
Hmm.
I predicted that Kyle Busch might have been, given the nod to drive the 48. That was a potential. Didn't know if it was going to happen, but it could have been a potential. Um, Obviously, that's not going to happen if it were ever in play. So there's a dynamic there. Um, but how many people won't get a chance because Kyle's not at a dirt track with Brexton looking and scouting and saying, "Hey, that kid, he's running those micros pretty good. Maybe we should move him up to a late model or something. Maybe I need to mention it over here that to Austin or to Richard that this guy's coming up the ranks. He's pretty good. As Brexton moves up and starts racing at Hickory or wherever, and these young kids are out there. How's that going to impact it? How's it going to impact Brexton's career in racing? Lennox's career. I know she likes to drive a go-kart. I've seen those videos that Sam puts out there. How's it going to affect Sam? What is this? Kyle Busch's death goes way beyond racing, and there's so much that he, we just don't know. We don't know what the overall impact will be. It's infinitesimal.
And Austin
That's
Dillon's
true.
open letter that he posted on Friday of all the driver tributes, and I saw that's the one that got me. And not that the others didn't, but I think you and I were talking about this off air, Jerry. I didn't realize how close Austin and Kyle were either. I knew they were close. I know Austin was heavily in recruiting him to RCR, but like it really feels like that was another brother to Austin Dillon, is the vibe that I got.
So I texted Whitney, Austin's wife, and just said, "Look, send my best, send my prayers to Austin and Richard. I'm not going to blow these drivers up. I'm friends with a lot of the wives and stuff, and it was rough. She told me, thanks for reaching out and letting she would pass it along. But I've been friends with Austin for a long time. Austin used to be on my radio show every single week when he was a rookie, not in the Cup, when he was in trucks. I followed Austin for years. Ty the same way. Okay, they were very close, and I didn't realize it either. I knew they were close. I didn't know they were that close. And to hear the emotion when Austin spoke and with with the words that he wrote, it's hard. It's been hard all weekend. And for me to be as close as I am to Kurt and to see Kurt land those roses on that 8 on the track, I was up on the roof. I didn't have enough time. I probably wouldn't have the photos that are on the Kickin the Tires website had I known that was going down. I found out about 20 minutes before it actually happened that they were that Sam and the Busch family and Kurt were going to be there, and the kids, and I didn't have time to get down there just to tell them that I praying for them. I love them. I care about them. But it was a very, very well done tribute by NASCAR. So kudos. I know people talk trash about Steve O'Donnell and other stuff, but kudos to Steve O'Donnell and everyone at NASCAR and everyone at SMI for putting together that tribute on Sunday. And the skies were the sun was shining. It was fine. It was very fitting what happened at the track.
Derek, you mentioned the tributes and how well NASCAR handled that. My next question is, where does NASCAR go from here? Because we saw how the sport responded after Dale Sr. passed and that, and Dale Jr. really taking the mantle, carrying the sport on his back through that circumstance. And now in this situation, I don't really know where we go from here. What does the outlook look like? Where does NASCAR and where do the drivers go as far as carrying on this legacy and moving forward after Kyle Busch here?
Well, I think about this weekend. We're going, the series is going to Nashville. Y'all are going to be there. I'm not going to be there. But our memory that we have of Kyle is smashing the guitar. Okay. And that's what he thought he was supposed to do. That was like, he didn't realize at the time how big of a deal it would be. He was just being a rock star, but they're gonna talk about that. That'll come up this weekend. I bet you money. Okay, we're already talking about it. Then they're going to go to Michigan. Then they're going to go, I mean, as you continue to go through every single race that Kyle Busch has ever been to, he's probably won there, most likely, or he's probably had an epic event there, good or bad. And that's going to be the highlight reel. But as far as having a Dale Jr. to pick up the, to pick up the sport and carry it on its back, so to using the words you did, I don't know. I think the whole sport has to come together and do that right now. It's just, I'll tell you, Bubba Wallace was out there when the car came down and he was in tears. And he was out there at the 8 paying tribute. I'm not saying he's the one that's going to carry the sport, but his love for Kyle Busch, it was big. So I'm sure Bubba has no problem stepping up if he needs to, but I have a mad respect for Bubba Wallace and the emotion that he showed this weekend, the vulnerability that he showed this weekend. Same for Austin Dillon. But all the drivers were affected. All the drivers, were impacted. But when I think of the two that stand out in my mind, it's those two. And like I said, Bubba was out there when the cars came down. There's a couple other drivers out there too, and I'm not going to leave anybody out. I'm not going to mention a bunch of others because I saw a few in the distance, but a couple of my, I didn't say anything to, but yeah, it was a very emotional time, and I think the sport has to rally around not only itself, but also, as Steve O'Donnell said, the sport needs to rally around Sam and Brexton and Lennox and Kurt and Tom and Gay, because no one, if this would have happened in a car, if we'd have been racing at Charlotte and he'd have passed away in a car, I don't think it would have been as big of an impact. It would have been tragic for the sport. Don't get me wrong. It's not what I'm saying. The man died of pneumonia that went septic. Look it up. I mean, sepsis kills 350,000 people a year on average. You don't expect it to take the life of a healthy NASCAR race car driver that for 25 years.
Yeah. Life is precious. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And I think that's a big reminder of that with Kyle being gone so soon with this. No easy way to transition from this, but I do want to ask you, Jerry, before we get into our headlines, everything else comes sport. What did you think of the race? It was very entertaining. Unfortunately, that was rain shortened. Daniel Suarez gets the win. Somebody that raced for Kyle, so that was cool to see that and him honor Kyle.
Yeah, I left his name out a while ago when I was thinking of the drivers and the impact of, my God, Daniel Suarez. Kyle called him 35 plus times, once a week or better, just to tell him, hey, this is what you need to do. How are you doing? Just to check on him. That's the kind of person Kyle Busch was. So
yeah. Daniel, some people are wondering, hey, did he really earn this win or not? But I would say, Jerry, that, they saw the weather forecast that everybody else did of what was coming. And he held on with 2 tires on 3 different restarts. I was very impressed with Daniel Suarez there.
Okay, so you've got Denny Hamlin and Chris Bell behind you. Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, 2 top drivers in this sport. Okay, are they better than Daniel Suarez? Probably a little bit. Probably. Okay. Daniel Suarez proved that he was better than they were on Sunday, in my opinion, because he held them off. Did he hold them off because they got together and were battling each other? That might have played something into it. But I think he'd have had to wreck Daniel Suarez to get past him. I mean, he was committed. He wanted to win for his friend. And look, we see strategy. That race is played out with rain short. Let's see. David Rudiman won a rain shortened, Coca-Cola 600. That's not the first time. There was one like a year and a half ago, or year, I think it was last year, maybe the year before. I can't remember. Another rain shortened. We've seen these races shortened before. Daniel was out front when the checkered flag fell. That's how this racing works. That's how NASCAR works. He won it. He won it fair and square. He earned it, and it was a damn good race throughout the evening. It was a damn good race. So all the naysayers, find another sport if you don't like it.
It was there you go. Perfect. If you don't like that kind of race, and don't even watch, right?
That's
There you
right.
go. Um, it was a pretty remarkable win, to be honest with you, for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of ties back to the, obviously Spire in the old KBM shop. There's, this number 7 was the last number Kyle won with and everything, right? But from the standpoint of Daniel Suarez, I mean, to stay out, and he held those guys off genuinely. I mean, I think he absolutely had to earn that thing. And there was some fortune obviously with when the cautions kind of flew there for him the last couple times, but again, just a pretty remarkable. And for Spire, that makes 2 out of 3 weather wins. Is that correct? Um, and actually, I thought it was even more remarkable just because of the fact Spire was kind of nowhere to be found all night long. I think Hocevar was going multiple laps down. I don't remember seeing McDowell up front, and honestly, that was the first time. Yeah, I mean, Suarez didn't get any stage points, right? So all around a pretty remarkable victory for the 7 team, I think.
Yeah. And all three of their wins, Matt, have not come at the scheduled distance because Talladega went to overtime too. So some
Well, there you
weird kind of
go.
Spire stats. And somebody
Yeah.
different has won in a Spire car every single time. They have no multi winners yet. Now, Jerry, I haven't checked the documents. I know you're kind of the court guy. Has Jeff Dickerson gone in and updated, amended that they are now a 3-time organized win team, at least at the time of this taping? Has that been changed?
I knew you were gonna put me on the spot for that. I do not want to get drug into this lawsuit, please. Um, you know, it did not. It is not lost on me that Spire beat 2 JGR cars in the middle of this lawsuit. I mean, it's like drivers that hate each other getting on the same, pickup truck to go around the track and driver intros. So yeah, I haven't seen anything that's been updated, but, um, you know, I, uh, I did make a comment to someone after the race. Um, I guess those Gabe Hart notes are paying off for him.
That's good. Um, Jerry, what are you for Spire already though? Twice in victory lane, 2 different drivers. Daniel Suarez was kicked out of that ride at Trackhouse just a few months ago, and he has salvaged his career. That team is just clicking on all cylinders right now.
Look, Daniel told me that he felt like this was a good team for him. Everybody thought it was a bad, he didn't have a choice, but he thought, people were saying, this is not going to be good. This is, Spire's not going to be a factor. Is this the right thing for your career? Because you have done other stuff. Daniel Suarez was confident. Okay. And earlier this year, when I talked to him, he felt like things were starting to come together. It takes a lot of guts to make a pit call with 2 tires and gamble on weather. Y'all just don't. I was at the track. I tweeted out to, it's not tweeted, I texted it. Okay. I texted, the rain's going to miss us by 100 yards and we'll get the race in and then it'll pour. Okay. When they first stopped it, it was, it really, we shouldn't have, it wasn't that bad. If it, with that first little brush would have gotten past, we probably would have gone the distance on this race and Daniel Suarez wouldn't have won. There's nothing to say that the rain was going to pour down. Trust me, it rained for the rest of the night. Okay. But that was a gutsy call. You have to have a crew chief and a driver who trust one another and a team that can put that together and get out there on 2 tires, 3 restarts, 2 of the, top drivers in the sport, and then hold them off. And he did that. Daniel Suarez did that.
Yeah, it was impressive. No doubt about it. Let's get to our headlines this week. Dom, where do we want to start?
We're going to start with a twofold here with Richard Childress Racing and some headlines coming out of the RCR camp ahead of the weekend at Nashville. For the NASCAR entry list at the time of this taping, the number 33 car will continue to be driven by Austin Hill, at least for Nashville. Hill raced the 33, the renumbered number 8 to the 33 in the Coca-Cola 600 this past weekend. That will continue this weekend. Also coming on the heels of a statement from Richard Childress Racing on Tuesday that, paraphrasing here, that RCR is still requesting privacy, but Richard Childress will be made available to members of the media at Michigan International Speedway the following week.
Jerry, what's the future of the 33 car look like post Kyle Busch? We see Austin Hill gets the opportunity. He's won a lot in the O'Reilly series. I know there's been rumblings about Jesse Love. Do you think it could be one of those two guys next year, or do you think they go outside the organization?
I think Austin Hill's got that car. I think Austin's put in the time that he needs to in the Xfinity series or no NASCAR Raleigh Auto Parts series, the Nope series. I think that's where we see Austin. I think he'll be in the 33. I think you'll have two Austins, Austin Dillon and Austin Hill. Austin squared.
Austin squared. Well, and to add to that too, Tyler and Jerry, I think you can speak more on this too. I guess I'm putting you on the spot a lot here today, but with Jesse Love, even weeks ago, right? Wasn't he supposed to be attempting the Cup race in the third entry for RCR? And there's now the linking potentially of him to Legacy Motor Club. We have seen in the past where once Richard Childress and RCR find out that you're not part of the long-term plan, they kind of start disassociating. Are we kind of seeing a little bit of that come into play right now?
Possible. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the one on Richard Childress's bad side, and but Jesse's going to go and do what's best for him. I can't say that going to Legacy would be a bad deal. But look, if you're a driver and you're trying to move up, you go to the person that's going to give you a ride. It's just the way it works. Whether it's Chip Ganassi back in the day, or Rick Hendrick. If you remember, I think there's a story. Someone signed. I think it may have been Jeff met with Chip, and then Rick found out and signed him immediately. I got to figure out which driver it was, but I remember there was a play between one of the top drivers in the sport. I can't remember who it was, but they got an interview with Chip and they got an interview with Hendrick, and Hendrick signed them like that. You don't wait for talent. If you're an owner at a Cup level, you don't wait for talent. If talent's out there and you know that you got to get it, you get it. Chase Elliott got signed at 8 years old or whatever it was. That old, we all heard about that statement. That he had a deal with Hendrick Motorsports when he was a kid. So he may have been 16, but whatever. He was young, but it was those owners, they're ruthless. If Jesse Love's talking to Jimmy Johnson, then he'll probably end up if they're already talking, he'll probably end up there.
Just makes you think it's going to be a race to sign Braxton Busch here.
Braxton Busch, that's an interesting topic on. I don't know. I mean, I would think he's got a place at RCR. Richard already said we're saving that number for him.
Yeah.
So Braxton's got talent. I know his dad was two-time champion and all that, but Braxton himself has talent as a racer. I've seen Braxton race in person. He's got talent. He needs Kyle, needs somebody to help him develop it and focus on it. But he's got talent if he wants to be a race car driver.
He spent a lot of time racing with Kyle, and I think he beat Kyle quite a few times. So I think it's not a hot take to say he's got a big future ahead of him on the racing side if he continues striving for that. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him for sure.
Yeah. I'm with you, Matt.
What else we got, Dom?
Looking ahead to this weekend, we have all three national series making the rounds at Nashville Super Speedway: the Truck, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and the NASCAR Cup Series. Looking ahead to this weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series and their stop at Nashville, and the odds. Right, we talk about the odds a lot on this show and what the opening odds look like for this weekend. Denny Hamlin is your odds-on favorite at the time of this taping to outright win the Cracker Barrel 400. Those odds posted at the time of this taping at plus 400. Christopher
I
Bell
was going to
plus
say 4-1.
575.
I was going to say 4-1.
You say 4-1, you would have been correct, man. You would have been right down money line right there on that one. Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick 6-1 or plus 600. Kyle Larson plus 800. Chase Briscoe 1,000-1 or 10-1. Chase Elliott, William Byron each at 14-1. Ty Gibbs at 16-1. Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, they are each past winners at Nashville in the Cup Series, coming in at 18-1. Bubba Wallace 22-1. Carson Hocevar 25-1. Your longest odds include Todd Gilliland at 500-1, Cole Custer and Ty Dillon at 750-1, and Cody Ware at 2,500-1. There's a disclaimer as always. This is solely for news and entertainment purposes. This content is not financial or betting advice.
To hell with that. I'm betting on Carson
Yeah, me
Hocevar at
too.
25-1. Are you kidding me? What?
Now,
That's the steal of the weekend.
as a betting man like I am, and Jerry is, and Dominic is, despite his disclaimer that he tries to throw out there.
I have to get the legalese, but now that we have the legalese out of the way, go ahead.
Yes, there's no legalese to protect folks. We are giving you advice, free betting advice.
Not me.
Jerry, looking at kind of the sports books as we follow this every single week, even when Tyler Reddick was winning all those races, Denny Hamlin, for the most part, was still favored ahead of him in almost every race that Tyler Reddick won. And since that streak, that run has ended of sorts, Denny Hamlin is still the favorite almost every week. What is Vegas seeing right now? Are they seeing that Denny Hamlin is the real championship favorite and not Tyler Reddick right now?
So I actually have an answer for you that's intelligent. And that is NASCAR is so minuscule in the Vegas odds lines that there's probably 3 people in all of Vegas that set lines that actually understand it and pay attention to it. The rest of it, it's almost a gut feel. Okay. I mean, that truly came from somebody that runs a sports book in Las Vegas. It's such a minuscule number when you get down to, if I were to call right now and put a $10,000 bet on Reddick, that could shift the line for Reddick across the board. That's how in play NASCAR is when you're talking about, that little bit of money can move the line, because it's just not that big of a deal when you're looking at basketball or NFL or even baseball. We are low on the totem pole in the gambling world. So they don't focus on it. They don't see, and it's probably some algorithm, to be honest with you. They just don't see what we see by being here every week, because they don't follow it to the extent. There's 3 or 4 experts, but the rest of them, they do this when they're doing their baseball and basketball stats.
So and to that too, I've heard from a source there as well that motorsports betting is like 3 to 5% of the whole market share of entire sport. So that checks out.
So the algorithm tends to love Denny Hamlin right now.
Apparently so.
Okay.
I love Denny Hamlin too. Look, I picked Denny to win at Charlotte.
I did too.
That doesn't mean I'm going to pick him every week to be a favorite, just like I wouldn't have picked Kyle Larson for like 2 years in a row to be the favorite every time we rolled into a track.
Yeah.
To be fair, you were about 2 seconds away from that being correct at Charlotte.
I know, right?
I mean, two more seconds and a caution comes out, and Denny Hamlin's your winner.
Yeah, my bank account would have been nice if Denny would have gotten about 2 more seconds. But that's another story. With that, Nashville, we haven't really got a chance to preview the race kind of in depth. Jerry, I've said this before. I feel like this has become a marquee race on the NASCAR schedule. I think it's one of the top 10 events that NASCAR does all year. We've seen great racing there. It's a great time of year for this race. It's not too hot just yet. Week after Memorial Day weekend, kind of kicking off the summer and everything. The atmosphere has been great. It's been sellout races every time they've been there. The city just embraces it left and right everywhere you go on Broadway. I think we're in for an exciting weekend here. What say you, Jerry?
I do. I think there's a lot of things good about Nashville, not just the track and but there's so many cool race fans, in that area. You know, I'm I'm thinking the racing with it not being 1,000 degrees outside. The last time I went to Nashville, it was so hot and it was just miserable. But I think they might. I want to see how it plays out, and I hope the rain doesn't affect it. Um, but man, if we could get some decent weather, that could be such a phenomenal race. Because I remember years ago when we raced at Nashville Super Speedway, and this is gonna be fun. I wish I was gonna be there this weekend, but I couldn't make that happen.
I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know if you guys have, but I thought it was interesting at Dover a few weeks back how they laid that traction compound down, or the resin. Have you guys heard anything about them doing that at Nashville, or are they kind of leaving it green?
I haven't heard anything.
Would be an interesting thing to try.
Hmm. Didn't they do it at Charlotte last week too?
I think they do it every weekend, but it's only in certain parts of it. Like they don't always put it down low or anything like that.
I'm just thinking with the concrete surface, maybe there would be some, because obviously it widened Dover out. I mean, that was, I think, the widest I'd ever seen Dover get. So I think something like that might do well at Nashville as well. So that'd be interesting if they tried it. Not that I have absolutely zero grounds for bringing it up other than curiosity. So
We
What?
see. I used to go to Nashville. We only started racing at Nashville, what, 21 with the Cup Series,
Yeah.
but Xfinity, whatever it was back then, um, Bush, Xfinity, whatever that series was, and the
Nationwide.
trucks nationwide, is on your side. Uh, when I was going to Nashville, the racing was so phenomenal in those under series that, I mean, I was thrilled when we got the Cup race there. Um, but it has been hot. Both the three times that I've been to Nashville, it's been super hot. So but look, that helps. That helps with the track being slick and all that stuff. But it, I'd like to see better grip and more racy.
So who do you like this weekend, Jerry?
I actually might pick Reddick, but for the money, I'm picking Hocevar.
Okay.
But I would probably pick Reddick to win. Um, if I was just picking, if I didn't have 25 to 1 odds on Carson.
How about you, Matt? Who's your pick?
man, that 11 team's been hot and they've been really good on the concrete lately. It's hard to go against Denny Hamlin.
Dom, how about you?
Going with someone from that same camp, Matt. They have been really fast. They were fast at the Coke 600. Let's go Chase Briscoe to get win number one of 2026.
Not a bad pick.
Yeah.
10 to
He
1
needs
too
it.
for the betting people. That's 10 to 1 at the time of the taping.
He needs it.
I'll go with Denny. I feel like his season, he doesn't have as many wins as he should for as well as he's run. And I think this is a good time for him to kind of catch up in the win department of sorts. That Nashville presents a good opportunity to do that. But should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see how it all plays out this weekend in Nashville. And Dom, you and I will be there. This is one of my favorite races. And this is your first visit to Nashville Super Speedway, right?
We're road tripping it. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'll be there for sure the Cup race Sunday and maybe O'Reilly and Truck if those are pushed to Sunday. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But looking forward to you've talked up this event so much. I've been to the track, but on a non-race weekend, it's actually be really cool to experience this on a NASCAR race
Well,
weekend.
you need to go downtown. You need to get there in time to go downtown to Broadway and see all the fun stuff in downtown Nashville. And I mean, it's. I was going to say that a while ago. It's not just the track. It's
Yes.
it's a freaking like Vegas as well without the gambling
And with
Full times
country
to
music
Broadway.
everywhere.
It's nice.
and with country
Yeah.
music everywhere. By the way, yeah,
Absolutely.
The live music scene out there on Broadway is awesome. I remember going a couple
yeah,
of times to go visit Matt Corson, friend of the show. Great city.
and that
Uh,
works for me still at Kickin.
I would say too, for folks that are like us making this trip, stick around Monday. I'm going to be around Monday. Like, go to Broadway, and experience everything, because that is like the one city. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It's a good time. Like you can go listen to some live music, enjoy Nashville. It all has to offer, and it's Monday at 2 o'clock. Like it's unique in that sense. So I'm looking forward to being out there. Dom still owes me a steak dinner. I'm thinking that we'll make lunch happen Sunday, Dom.
Lunch Sunday may not happen, but Monday. Let's pencil something in for Monday.
Okay. We'll make Sunday lunch happen. That's what it sounds like to me.
No.
Go to the Palm Steakhouse. It's really good.
Okay.
It's really good down. It's a Landry's restaurant, but the Palm Steakhouse is really good. There's a couple of good steakhouses I know about in Nashville.
Okay. I'll make Dom get me a really good steak. Yeah. Not to mention, it's my 30th birthday too this weekend. So we will be living
Not to
it
mention
up.
that.
Yes. So it's the start of the summer of Jones. It's my 30th birthday. It is going to be one for the memories, one for the record books this weekend. So
When do you go to Vegas?
so update on that, by the way. So I will not use profanity, even though I probably should. But they kind of screwed me over on Vegas. After I'd already paid, they claimed it was sold out. So now I'm stuck going to New Orleans instead.
Yeah, it doesn't
We
have
have
the same ring
casinos in
to
New
it.
Orleans.
Like first week of July. So New Orleans is fine. I've only been to New Orleans once. I've been to Vegas plenty of times.
New Orleans. Look, okay. Go to the World War II Museum. It's amazing. I can tell you all the rest. Look, it's like literally 3 hours from me. I'm going to be in
Yeah.
San Diego. No, I'll be back. 4th of July. I should be. No, I'll be in. I don't know. We'll see. I might actually be in town. But either way, get with me because I can tell you all the cool restaurants to eat at. I can tell you all the cool places to go. I've been there 50 times in my life, probably.
Okay. I only went to New Orleans one time for the Super Bowl last year. But I'm looking forward to just going for a vacation, kind of take it all in for a few days, but that'll be a lot of fun. Guys, before we go, Matt, what do you got going on this weekend, man?
Man, this weekend we're just kind of doing the same thing we've been doing previously and working hard to get that next opportunity, but that's about it.
All right. Jerry, you're not going to be in Nashville this weekend, but what else are you doing?
We're relaxing this weekend. We were, not doing a whole lot. I've got a trip coming next weekend. I'm going to the U.S. Mint. I'm going to meet for 2 days with the U.S. Mint director, meeting with some people, Media Research Center. This is all for my day job. And then I come back. I probably won't be on the show before then. So the 4th of July, I will be on a boat in the river in New York shooting photos of the 4th of July fireworks in front of the Statue of Liberty. I've never done that before. It's the 250th anniversary of America. And I decided I'm going to go to New York and take pictures for the first time, of the fireworks. And you do it in person instead of watching it on TV.
That sounds great.
Super
Sounds
cool.
great. Dom and I will have everything covered this weekend from Nashville. Follow along, NASCARroundtable.com, theracingexperts.com. Also check out Jerry's work with kickingthetires.net as well. And we'll have you covered on all fronts. We'll put the checkered flag out on this edition of the Racing Roundtable. Subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Hit us up on social media on all platforms and by email. And you can also check out this show along with the rest of the Studio Soapbox Network, the Jones Report on all podcast platforms. And we thank you all for joining us. For Jerry Jordan, Dominic Aragon, and Matt Kemp, I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. This has been another edition of the Racing Roundtable. We'll see you next week.